Hi everyone, thank you so much for letting me be here. We made it to the end of the day, hooray! Almost there, I promise I'm going to keep my remarks as brief as possible. I feel like I should maybe apologize. When you heard that there was a surprise after the last group of talks, I don't know, you maybe were thinking a big plate of food, maybe some caffeine, maybe some treats, maybe some wine. I am none of those things, so sorry for that. But I do really appreciate the opportunity to be here speaking with all of you, and this conference has been absolutely amazing. These women should have had me go first because those are very tough presentations to follow. We will not be ending with the best for last, I'm just telling you that now, but I am so grateful for everyone who presented today, everyone who's here, and Vanessa, you and your team, everything you've done to put this together. It's very humbling, really. So thank you so much. So I just want to discuss briefly a topic that I feel is, it kind of connects again to Heather and Vanessa, the human aspect of this rare disease, CDG life that we're all a part of in one way or another. It's a topic that I think is extremely important for all parents really, but particularly for special needs parents. But I think it often goes overlooked for a variety of reasons, and that is self-care. So we spend a lot of time talking about our children and our patients that are affected by CDG. We probably spend a whole lot less time thinking about if we're okay as the caretakers of these kiddos with CDG. And I think that it's really important to make sure that we're not completely neglecting ourselves. So I'm going to touch briefly on that, and I want to specifically discuss why self-care is not only important, but actually essential, what self-care really means, and then some ideas of how we can start practicing self-care in really time-effective, simple, easy ways so that we can do it on a regular basis. So a little backstory about why I've become passionate about this topic. My day job is that of a blogger, or what we're now referred to as influencers, which is really just kind of a weird title for people who post things online, hoping that someone will read them or care. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I started doing that about 7 years ago. I post on my blog, fortheloveblog.com, and Instagram at Shannon Willardson. And on my other social media as well. I've been doing that for about 7 years. And it really started for me as just kind of a creative outlet. I was working in a corporate tech job in a really tactical role, and I just needed some type of creative outlet. And so I started posting about just kind of the fluffier things in life. Clothes, my fashion, beauty, home decor, travel, you know, just kind of the things that are fun, but that in the grand scheme maybe don't matter so much. But again, it was just a nice creative outlet for me. Then I had kids, and everything changed. My perspective changed, my time changed, everything changed, because that's what happens when you have kids. This is my son, Jack. He is 5 years old. He's our first child. And when I had Jack, like I said, my perspective changed, and I started trying to kind of weave more of that content, more of those topics into my content, talking about mom life, talking about the struggles of juggling everything, and, you know, parenting, those types of things. Life and perspective really changed when these two came around. These are our CDG girls. This is Charlotte Rose and Miss Ava Joy. Charlotte is currently 3 years old, and Ava is 9 months old, just a wee 9 months old. And both our girls have been diagnosed with ALG11-1P, CDG-1P. When I was pregnant with, when I had Charlie, we thought that we had Charlotte, we call her Charlie, we thought that we had a perfectly healthy baby girl. I had a totally uncomplicated pregnancy. Everything in the delivery went fine. And for all we knew, we we took home our second healthy child. Around between 4 and 5 months old, all of the complications started to arise: failure to thrive, infantile spasms, missing milestones, and it was then that we kind of started that long journey of trying to find a diagnosis, which I know so many, if not all of you, can relate to. After tests and tests and tests, we finally reached, through whole exome sequencing, the diagnosis of ALG11-1P. And although it wasn't at all what we were expecting for our lives, we took the bull by the horn, so to speak, and said, okay, this is what it is. We can do this. We're going to figure this out. Later, Miss Ava came, and we won't call Ava an accident, but we will call her a surprise. Ava was definitely a surprise. It was an unplanned pregnancy, a prevented pregnancy, which is how we know that someone else is in charge, and something else was the plan. Ava came, and in utero, we found out that she also had ALG11-1P, which, to be totally honest, was really, really hard. That was a dark time for me, just trying to process that and imagine life with not one, but two CDG kids. Once Ava came, though, and you can see this in the pictures, the bond that these two have is just remarkable, and we kind of realized, okay, these two must have had a pact before they came to this life that they were going to do this thing together, because, I mean, the bond they have is absolutely incredible to witness. Sometimes even when Ava's crying, we'll set her down next to Charlie and she'll instantly calm down. It's happened multiple times. And it's amazing. These two, they knew that they needed each other. That said, I think we can all agree that having special needs children can be hard. It can be really hard. And going back to, what I do for a living, having two special needs kids really gave me this experience. How many of you can relate to that? Raise your hand. Yes? Dads, you can substitute mom for dad, clinicians as well. But yeah, I really experienced what this was like, what it felt like to be a special needs mom. I continued with my day job, and I felt this urge to, now that I had CDG kids and I had this greater purpose that I was, involved in my life, I wanted to use my platform to spread awareness for rare disease, for CDG, and really to just connect with other special needs parents who could relate to what it's like to be a special needs parent and all the singular challenges that come with that. But two really interesting things happened as I started to kind of weave that content in. I found that I was experiencing a lot of guilt, which actually kind of surprised me. But I found that when I would post about the things that I had originally built my platform on, fashion, shopping, home decor, just the lighter things, the fun things in life, I felt guilty. I felt like I had this bigger thing now in my life, and that maybe it wasn't okay anymore to post about these other things. Was I still allowed to like those things? I felt a lot of inner conflict about that. The other thing that started happening was that I began getting a lot of messages from other special needs moms. Women reaching out, some were CDG moms, but frankly there's not a lot of us, so a lot of them were just other special needs moms with kids with different diagnoses who would reach out and say things like, I just want to thank you for continuing to post about your original content, because it's made me feel like I can have some normalcy in my life even though I'm a special needs parent, and like it's okay for me to continue to enjoy those things. And there was this theme in a lot of these messages just to that effect, that kind of appreciation for that relatability. And it really surprised me. For one, it helped me kind of resolve some of that inner conflict and guilt that I felt, like, okay, it is okay for me to continue to have other aspects of my life. But secondly, it really got me thinking about self-care. And and just how vital it is, especially for us as special needs parents, to not just totally lose ourselves in the wake of caring for our CDG kiddos. And that's kind of what I wanted to go over today. So to that point, I wanted to share some quotes. This will work. Oh, there's a real life picture for you, me and the girls. That's how it often goes. I wanted to share some quotes about self-care that really spoke to me and that I feel like kind of illustrate this point. An empty lantern provides no light. Self-care is the fuel that allows your light to shine brightly. Caring for myself is not indulgence, it is self-preservation. Rest and self-care are so important. When you take time to replenish your spirit, it allows you to serve others from the overflow. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. Self-care is not a waste of time. Self-care makes your use of time more sustainable. Taking care of myself doesn't mean me first, it means me too. So what I take from all of those quotes is that not only is self-care important, it's actually imperative, it's vital. We've all seen this type of an illustration before, we've all been on airplanes before, we know that if there's a cabin pressure change in the airplane and the air masks come down, who do they tell you to put on the mask first? It's always you, right? Put the mask on yourself first, then help the child next to you if you're with the child. And there's a reason that it has to go in that order, you first and then the child. Because obviously, if I am not okay enough to be able to take care of my child, then we're both in trouble. And that to me is the concept of self-care. We all have people to care for, but if we are not addressing our own needs and making sure that we're okay, we really cannot provide the kind of care that our children and our patients need and deserve from us. So what is self-care? We hear that word, what the heck does it mean? I want to talk about that really quickly. Here are a few definitions of self-care that I found, that I liked. Self-care is any activity that we do deliberately in order to take care of our mental, emotional, and physical health. Self-care is deliberately taking care of our well-being through restorative activities. Self-care is sustained, intentional practice in one's life to preserve wellness and maintain a wholeness in being. Self-care is the mindset, activities, practices, and habits we bring to bear against stress, unhappiness, illness, depression, and many more negative emotions. So those are all pretty, so I'll go back to that. Those are all pretty high-level definitions, and what could fall into those categories is pretty broad, right? But what I take from that is self-care can be a lot of things, and what self-care is to me might be totally different than what it is to you. But I think the important part is just finding something that works for you, something that truly feels restorative to you, something that gives you something back, gives you some life, even if it's in the teeniest way. There are some self-care activities that are pretty universal, things like getting enough sleep, eating healthy foods, getting regular exercise, hydrating, etc. But I think generally speaking, self-care is a really personalized thing. I think there's also this big myth that self-care needs to be something huge, like a big spa day or a big shopping spree or weekend-long Netflix binge with no kids and all the pizza you can have. That's my secret dream. I've yet to live that one. But I think it's important to note that it doesn't, while those things are great, and those are nice indulgences here and there, having those as the norm is not really realistic and does not necessarily define self-care. I think especially with the lives that we lead and how busy we are in caring for special needs children, self-care should be things that we can do on a regular basis, consistently. That's the most important thing. So to that point, I wanted to share in closing just some ideas of some self-care activities that you can do that are really time effective and that can help you manage your stress and overload in really simple ways. So here are some examples. Mindful breathing. So can we just all do this together really quickly? Okay, so do me a favor, put your feet flat on the floor. We're gonna do this. Again, inhale in, exhale out. One more, inhale in, exhale out. Congratulations, everyone. You just practiced self-care. It can literally be that easy. Let's try one more. Okay, everyone stand up really quickly. And then we get food, I promise. Okay. If you can, stand up. On the count of three. On the count of three, we're all just gonna jump in place for like 5 seconds. About 10 seconds. We're just gonna jump in place, okay? Really feel it, just kind of get into it, okay? 1, 2, 3. Excellent, good job. Congratulations, you just practiced self-care. It really can be that easy. Now that second one might seem a little odd, but movement, you guys, is actually one of the fastest ways to change your state of being, to change your mood, because it literally changes your physiology. It literally changes what's going on inside. So no joke, when I'm at home and I feel myself kind of getting funky, feeling stressed out, I will often just literally do that. Jump in place or do some weird, something weird where I'm moving my body. And it really does just kind of snap me out of it. So that is self-care. Super quick, super accessible, that is self-care. A couple others. A gratitude journal. The power in just writing even down one thing that you're grateful for each day. Takes less than 60 seconds. Incredibly powerful way to manage your self-care. Sending a thoughtful text. Moments of stillness and silence. Music, the opposite, listening to music that really makes you feel good. Taking a quick walk, and to that point, getting outside, going in your backyard. Visual reminders, we like to have a wall in our house where we hang up little either quotes or scriptures or whatever it may be that kind of inspire us. And if I need to, I'll just go stand in front of that wall, read a few of them, and I'm recharged. Super quick and easy. Shut down negative self-talk. I cannot express the importance of this one. We have so much negativity that filters through our minds constantly, and there's so much guilt and shame that we're constantly under. I think shutting that down is so vitally important. The person who deserves your compassion first and foremost is yourself. Reciting positive affirmations to yourself, getting ready for the day. I'm always pretty amazed at what a shower will do, help me feel. Venting, having a friend that you can truly trust that's a safe place. Again, going back to some of those essentials, drinking more water, getting good nutrition, taking a power nap, working out, leaning into a hobby or side gig, which is kind of what happened with my blog, which I've been so grateful for. All of these things are examples of self-care, and a lot of those are things that are quick and easy wins that you can access on a daily basis so that you're getting self-care on a regular basis. And one of the most important ones is knowing your resources. I think especially in our situation, this is absolutely vital. Sometimes the self-care you need is more involved. It's being able to go on a date with your partner. It's being able to get away for a weekend, to go on a trip like this. And I think it's so important that you understand the resources that are available to you as a parent to a child with special needs. I know that when my husband and I first had Charlotte, our daughter, I felt so lost in terms of what was available to us, what services we were supposed to be accessing, but that's the beauty of this community. So many of you helped us to navigate all of that, and I just urge you, if you're, I don't know if this applies to anyone here, but if you're new to this community or you're still figuring those things out, reach out to the other people here so that they can help you figure that out, because it's invaluable. And in closing, let's make a little action plan. I have a couple invitations for you guys. The first one is I want to invite everyone here to just relinquish any guilt that you may feel for taking care of yourself. That is my invitation to you. Instead of thinking of it as self-indulgent, please, I urge you to think of it as absolutely essential and remove any guilt that you may feel in making sure that you are okay. Secondly, I want to invite everyone to pick one self-care activity that they will try this week and that they will employ when you start to feel like you're fraying a little bit. Whatever those triggers are for you, getting moody, getting stressed, whatever they are. Pick something either off this list or something that you already know works for you and try that. Will you do that? Perfect. And lastly, continue with what works. If you have things that you already know are your go-to sources for kind of managing your stress, holding it all together, especially with all the complexities of having a child with a rare disease, stick with what works, absolutely. And finally, I would love to stay connected with all of you. Again, I cannot express how humbling it is to be amongst all of you, to know you, and I want to know you all better, so please connect with me here. I would love to stay connected, and thank you so much.